Self-love is often misunderstood as self-obsession, as if caring deeply for oneself somehow diminishes one's capacity to care for others. But true self-love is not vanity, it's clarity. It's not about gazing at your reflection with pride. It's about seeing yourself honestly, beyond masks, beyond fears, beyond the fragile image that others may hold of you. Vanity depends on admiration. Clarity depends on understanding. Vanity wants to be seen as perfect. Clarity wants to be real. And there is a profound difference between the two. When you begin to truly love yourself, it's not an act of ego, it's an act of awakening. You start to recognize where you have been unfair to yourself, where you have shrunk to fit into other people's expectations, where you have betrayed your own needs just to be accepted. Loving yourself means bringing light to those hidden places within where shame and self-doubt have taken root. It is not an indulgence. It is the foundation upon which all healthy relationships are built. Because until you see yourself clearly, you will keep attracting situations that reflect your confusion. The one who has not learned to love themselves lives in a fog of dependency. They seek love to feel worthy, validation to feel real, and attention to feel alive. But these external affirmations are temporary. They cannot sustain a soul that has not yet learned to nurture itself. When you mistake vanity for love, you chase the mirror rather than the truth. You curate images of happiness instead of cultivating peace. You crave applause, but you cannot rest in silence. Vanity thrives in insecurity. Clarity blooms from inner stillness. Clarity asks you to stand before your flaws without judgment, to see your insecurities not as proof of failure, but as invitations to grow. It teaches you that self-love is not about declaring yourself flawless. It is about being willing to face your imperfections with compassion. You start to notice how much of your pain was born from misunderstanding who you are. You realize that your worth was never something to earn, it was something to remember. The clearer you become about this truth, the less you need to prove anything to anyone. Self-love in its purest form is gentle discipline. It is saying no when something drains your energy. It is walking away from chaos even when it's familiar. It is choosing rest over exhaustion, peace over drama, honesty over comfort. This kind of love requires courage because clarity dismantles illusion. It forces you to confront your patterns, your fears, and the stories that once kept you safe. It shows you that healing isn't glamorous. It's raw, it's quiet, and it's deeply personal. But it's through this process that you begin to rebuild yourself from the inside out. Loving yourself with clarity also transforms how you see others. When you understand your own wounds, you stop projecting them onto the people around you. You no longer demand that others fix what you haven't faced. You stop blaming them for not giving you what you refuse to give yourself. Clarity in self-love creates emotional independence. It teaches you that love is something you share, not something you seek to fill your emptiness. It opens the door to compassion, because when you can hold your own pain without judgment, you learn to hold others with the same grace. The truth is, vanity isolates, clarity connects. Vanity needs the world to mirror back its worth. Clarity finds worth in being alive. Vanity fears being unseen. Clarity is content in solitude. Vanity is fragile because it depends on approval. Clarity is strong because it depends on truth. When you reach the point where you can sit quietly with yourself and feel peace instead of restlessness, that is the moment you begin to taste real self-love. When you can forgive yourself for the things you did out of fear and ignorance, you create space for healing. When you can look at your own reflection and see both the shadow and the light and embrace them equally, you step into the realm of authenticity. The journey from vanity to clarity is the journey from noise to silence, from seeking to knowing, from pretending to being. It's not about becoming better than anyone. It's about becoming whole within yourself. It's the slow unlearning of every belief that told you you're not enough. It's the courage to stand firm in your truth, even when the world misunderstands it. It's the quiet confidence that doesn't need to announce itself, because it shines through the way you move, speak, and love. When you love yourself with clarity, you stop chasing illusions of perfection and start living in alignment with your essence. You recognize that your value was never in your appearance, your status, or your success. It was always in your ability to be present, to feel deeply, to live authentically. Self-love is not the mirror you admire. It's the window through which you finally see who you've always been. You attract what you reflect. It is one of the most profound truths of human connection, and yet it is often the most resisted. People like to believe that love, friendship, or opportunity arrive by luck, but in reality, they are drawn by resonance. What you carry within you, your beliefs, your wounds, your peace, your chaos, creates an invisible vibration that shapes your experiences. The world is a mirror that doesn't show you what you want, it shows you what you are. Every relationship, every rejection, every encounter reflects the energy you emit, consciously or unconsciously. When you live in fear, you attract situations that confirm that fear. When you live in insecurity, you attract people who exploit it or mirror it. But when you begin to embody self-worth, you draw to yourself relationships that honor it. This is not mystical thinking, it's psychological truth. Human beings sense each other's emotional frequency. Confidence feels different from neediness. Authenticity feels different from pretense. Peace feels different from turmoil. Without words, energy speaks, and it tells others how to treat you, how close to come, and what kind of love you believe you deserve. Attraction is not just about appearance or charm, it is about emotional alignment. If you carry unhealed wounds, you will unconsciously find those who echo them. The person who disrespects you might not be your punishment. They are your mirror, showing where you have not yet respected yourself. The lover who withholds affection may reflect the parts of you that withhold love from your own being. The friend who drains your energy may reveal how little you have learned to protect your boundaries. Every connection is a lesson in self-awareness, guiding you to see where your reflection still carries distortion. The truth is, we do not attract what we want. We attract what we are ready for. The universe doesn't respond to our wishes, it responds to our energy. You can say you want peace, but if your heart vibrates with unresolved anger, chaos will continue to visit you. You can say you want love, but if you live in self-rejection, you will meet people who confirm that rejection. Change happens when the inner frequency shifts, when what you radiate becomes aligned with what you desire. To reflect peace, you must cultivate peace. To reflect love, you must embody love. To reflect abundance, you must stop feeding scarcity. It begins with inner work, with examining what lives behind your choices, what fears guide your patterns, what memories still whisper that you are unworthy. Every act of healing changes your reflection, And every change in reflection changes what you attract. Healing is not just about letting go of the past, it's about transforming the energy that the past left within you. You attract not from your words, but from your emotional truth. You may tell the world you are confident, but if deep inside you doubt your worth, others will feel that uncertainty. Energy cannot lie. The vibration you carry is your real language, and people respond to it instinctively. This is why two people can enter the same room and receive completely different responses. One draws respect effortlessly, the other fights for attention. The difference is reflection. One radiates self-trust, the other radiates self-doubt. When you begin to reflect clarity and self-respect, your world reorganizes itself. People who thrive on confusion will leave because your light exposes their shadows. Those who cannot meet your new energy will drift away, not because you're difficult, but because you're no longer vibrating at the same level of chaos. You'll find yourself drawn to those who speak the language of growth, truth, and peace. You won't chase anymore because the need to chase disappears when you realize what's meant for you will recognize you by the energy you hold. Reflection also teaches humility. It reminds you that every time someone triggers you, there's something within you responding to that energy. Instead of asking, why are they like this? Clarity asks, what are they showing me about myself? Sometimes people mirror your light, and sometimes they mirror your shadow. Both are teachers. Both reveal what still needs your attention. The moment you see this, blame loses its grip, and self-awareness takes its place. You begin to realize that life isn't happening to you, it's happening through you. As your awareness deepens, attraction becomes intentional rather than accidental. You start to align your thoughts, emotions, and actions with the kind of energy you wish to experience. You stop trying to control outcomes and start curating your inner state. You understand that if you cultivate gratitude, peace, and authenticity, you will magnetize relationships and opportunities that reflect the same. The more you embody the vibration of what you seek, the more it finds you without effort. You attract what you reflect because the outer world mirrors the inner one. If you desire kindness, be kind to yourself. If you crave loyalty, become loyal to your truth. If you seek respect, start by respecting your boundaries. Life cannot offer you what you deny within yourself. It only amplifies what you already carry. Every moment becomes a mirror reflecting your inner architecture back at you, not to punish, but to awaken, to remind you that everything you long for already exists within your reflection, waiting to be remembered. Love grows in awareness, not in need. Most people mistake attachment for affection, possession for connection, and dependency for intimacy. They call it love when, in truth, it is fear disguised as devotion. Need says, I cannot live without you. Awareness says, I choose to share this life with you. Need clings to avoid loss. Awareness connects to experience growth. The difference between the two is the difference between unconscious longing and conscious union. When love is born from need, it is fragile. It depends on conditions, on how the other person behaves, how much they give, how closely they fit the image created in your mind. It's a love built on control, where one heart tries to shape another to soothe its insecurities. Need is driven by emptiness. It seeks someone else to fill the void within. But no matter how much love another offers, that hunger remains unsatisfied because it does not come from lack of love outside, but lack of awareness inside. Without awareness, love becomes addiction. You keep chasing reassurance, approval, and comfort, mistaking them for intimacy, yet the moment they fade, anxiety returns. Awareness changes everything. When you become aware of yourself, your fears, your patterns, your projections, you no longer demand that another person fix what only you can heal. You begin to love with open eyes rather than blind expectation. You recognize that no one is responsible for your happiness. You learn that love is not about finding a savior, but about meeting another soul from a place of wholeness. Awareness transforms love from a desperate grasp into a sacred exchange. The truth is, real love cannot grow in the soil of need, because need is rooted in fear. Fear of being alone, fear of rejection, fear of abandonment. It makes you cling tighter the moment you sense distance. It makes you over-give, over-explain, over-sacrifice just to keep the connection alive. But love born of fear cannot breathe. It suffocates under the weight of dependency. Awareness, on the other hand, gives love space to unfold naturally. It trusts, it allows, it observes. It understands that love is not possession. It is presence. To love in awareness is to see your partner not as an extension of yourself, but as a mirror reflecting your growth. You begin to notice how your reactions reveal your inner wounds. When you feel jealousy, awareness asks, what insecurity is this showing me? When you feel anger, it asks, what expectation did I attach to this moment? Every emotion becomes a doorway to deeper understanding. Awareness turns relationships into paths of self-discovery, not arenas of control. Love grows in awareness because awareness expands your capacity for empathy. When you understand your own pain, you can hold space for another's without judgment. You stop taking things personally because you see how everyone acts from their level of consciousness. You realize that the other person's silence, their defenses, their distance are not always rejection. They are reflections of their inner struggle. This recognition softens your heart. You stop reacting to pain with pain. You start responding with understanding. That is where love deepens, where compassion replaces ego, and where connection becomes a conscious choice rather than an unconscious habit. When you love from need, you measure affection by how much attention you receive. When you love from awareness, you measure it by how much freedom you give. Awareness knows that control kills intimacy. It understands that true connection can only thrive in trust. You stop fearing that space means disinterest. You realize that space is what allows love to breathe. You stop chasing constant reassurance because awareness teaches you to find safety within your own presence. Awareness also dissolves illusions about love itself. It shows you that love is not a feeling that fluctuates. It's a state of being that grows deeper as your consciousness expands. When you become aware of your patterns, you stop repeating them. You stop seeking familiar pain disguised as passion. You begin to choose partners not from old wounds, but from new wisdom. You learn that love is not about finding someone who completes your emptiness, but about meeting someone who complements your wholeness. Awareness strips love of fantasy and replaces it with truth. It removes the masks that both partners wear to appear lovable and replaces them with authenticity. It allows vulnerability because awareness knows that only through openness can two people truly meet. Need hides behind roles: savior, victim, pleaser, rescuer. Awareness removes those roles and lets you stand as you are, flawed but real. And in that realness, Love finally has space to grow. Love born of awareness matures over time. It doesn't seek intensity, it seeks depth. It doesn't demand perfection, it seeks understanding. It doesn't consume, it nourishes. It's the quiet, knowing that both of you are walking a path of growth, that sometimes love will challenge you more than it comforts you, and that's what makes it real. Awareness transforms love from a dependency into a dialogue between two evolving souls, where connection is not owned but continually rediscovered with each new moment of consciousness unfolding within you and between you. Healing changes attraction. What once drew you in begins to lose its power, and what once felt safe begins to feel suffocating. The people who once ignited excitement in your chaos start to seem heavy in your peace. The same patterns that used to repeat themselves quietly fall away when you begin to awaken to your worth. Healing doesn't just change how you feel, it changes who you desire, what you tolerate, and how you love. It's the process of outgrowing the versions of yourself that were built on pain. Before healing, attraction often comes from wounds rather than wisdom. You're drawn to the familiar, not because it's healthy, but because it's known. You find yourself returning to people who mirror your early experiences, unavailable, unpredictable, or emotionally distant. Because somewhere deep inside, the mind equates repetition with safety. The chemistry feels powerful, but it's often just two unhealed patterns colliding. The fire that burns in toxic attraction isn't passion, it's recognition of your own unhealed pain staring back at you. Healing begins when you start questioning why the same story keeps showing up in different faces. As you heal, your nervous system starts to crave stability instead of chaos. The thrill of inconsistency fades, and the calm presence of authenticity becomes magnetic. You start noticing red flags sooner, not because you've become cynical, but because you're more attuned to your own energy. The version of you that once felt the need to prove your worth now chooses peace over validation. You no longer confuse attention with affection. You start realizing that what you called connection was often just trauma trying to resolve itself through repetition. Healing teaches you that chemistry without safety is confusion, not love. Healing also brings emotional clarity. When your inner world becomes less cluttered with unprocessed pain, your perception shifts. You start seeing people for who they are, not who you hope they could be. You stop romanticizing potential and start valuing presence. You no longer fall for those who make you chase affection. Instead, you feel drawn to those who offer it freely. You stop trying to fix others because you've learned that healing can't be done through another person. It must be done within. This awareness reshapes the entire landscape of attraction. You stop seeking intensity and start valuing consistency, depth, and sincerity. As your self-awareness grows, so does your self-respect. You begin to understand that the kind of love you desire cannot coexist with the kind of pain you used to accept. Healing teaches you boundaries, not walls, but healthy gates that protect your peace. You no longer stay in situations that drain your energy, hoping they'll change. You walk away from relationships that demand. You shrink yourself just to stay. The more you heal, the more natural it becomes to choose alignment over attachment. You realize that love is not meant to hurt more than it heals. Healing also changes how you perceive attraction itself. You start realizing that physical or emotional intensity doesn't always equal connection. You begin to see how your body once mistook anxiety for excitement. The butterflies you used to chase now feel like warnings rather than romance. Your body becomes your compass. It no longer pulls you toward what's familiar in pain, but toward what's peaceful in truth. You become sensitive to energy, how people speak, how they listen, how they hold space. You begin to feel attraction not to chaos, but to calm. The relationships you build after healing are built differently. You communicate instead of manipulate. You express needs instead of suppressing them. You value emotional availability instead of mystery. You're not trying to rescue or be rescued. You're trying to grow together. You no longer want someone to complete you. You want someone to walk beside you. You begin to realize that the right person won't awaken your anxiety. They'll awaken your peace. The love that feels stable once seemed boring, but now it feels like home. Healing also reveals the deeper purpose of past connections. You start seeing that those who hurt you weren't mistakes. They were mirrors showing where you still needed to heal. They reflected your insecurities, your unhealed attachment wounds, your fear of abandonment. As painful as it was, they helped you awaken. Healing turns resentment into understanding and understanding into wisdom. You no longer look back in anger because you realize those experiences shaped the clarity you now live with. Every heartbreak was a lesson in self-awareness. Every rejection was redirection towards self-love. As you heal, attraction becomes a reflection of alignment rather than longing. You no longer crave intensity, you crave truth. You no longer fall for words, you feel the energy behind them. You no longer attach to potential, you respect reality. The more grounded you become within yourself, the more naturally you attract those who meet you at that same level of inner peace. Healing changes not only who you desire, but also what love means to you. It redefines attraction from a reaction of need to a recognition of resonance. It turns the search for completion into a celebration of connection that arises when two whole beings meet without pretending to be more or less than they truly are. Wholeness attracts wholeness. The love you draw into your life mirrors the state of your inner being. When you exist in fragmentation, when parts of you are buried in shame, fear, or denial, you attract relationships that mirror that fragmentation. But when you begin the slow, courageous work of integrating all that you are, your light, your shadow, your tenderness, your strength, you start to emit a vibration that calls in others who have done the same. Wholeness is not perfection, it is authenticity. It is the quiet power of being at peace with your contradictions, of no longer hiding from yourself. Before healing, attraction often grows from absence. You seek in others what you have disowned in yourself. You crave their strength because you've rejected your own. You are drawn to their confidence because you've lost faith in yours. You become magnetized to those who embody the parts of you that you've pushed away. It feels like love, but it is often an unconscious attempt to reclaim what you've forgotten about yourself. You believe the other person completes you, but they simply reflect your unfinished integration. As long as you live in this halfness, your relationships will echo it. Passionate yet unstable, intense yet unsustainable. Wholeness changes that dynamic completely. When you start accepting all of yourself, the messy, the graceful, the dark, and the divine, you no longer need another person to validate your existence. You stop projecting your unmet needs onto others. You stop seeking love through dependency because you have learned to give yourself what you once begged to receive. You no longer crave saving because you've rescued yourself. In that state, you attract people who meet you in balance, not in imbalance. Two complete souls create a different kind of love, one that expands rather than entangles. Wholeness attracts wholeness because energy recognizes itself. When you live authentically, you vibrate with truth, and truth draws truth. You are no longer interested in illusions or half-hearted connections. The games that once fascinated you now feel heavy. The people who used to trigger your wounds lose their power. You stop feeling magnetized to chaos because chaos no longer feels like home. Instead, you find peace deeply compelling. You start noticing how your heart feels safe around those who live in awareness, how ease replaces anxiety, and how real connection feels calm instead of consuming. Wholeness also changes the way you relate to love. You stop expecting relationships to complete you, and instead you allow them to mirror your growth. You no longer attach to others from emptiness, you connect from fullness. Love becomes a conscious choice rather than an unconscious craving. You give not to be validated, but because giving feels natural, you receive not out of need, but out of appreciation. Wholeness makes you emotionally self-sufficient, and from that space, love becomes a sharing of abundance, not an exchange of survival. To become whole, you must face the parts of yourself that you once abandoned. The anger you were taught to suppress, the sadness you were told to hide, the insecurities you've masked with perfection. All of them hold pieces of your power. Wholeness requires integration, not denial. It means looking into your own depths without judgment. It's realizing that you can be strong and still vulnerable, wise and still uncertain, independent and still open to love. The moment you stop fighting your contradictions, you begin to live from authenticity, and that authenticity is magnetic. Wholeness teaches you discernment. When you are fragmented, you are drawn to intensity because it feels alive. But when you are whole, you can sense the difference between energy that expands you and energy that drains you. You no longer mistake emotional turbulence for passion. You begin to recognize calm as chemistry, kindness as attraction, and mutual respect as intimacy. You stop feeling the urge to fix others because you understand that healing cannot be borrowed. It must be earned through self-awareness. You seek depth, not drama, connection, not confusion. When you live from wholeness, you attract relationships that mirror stability rather than struggle. You meet people who don't want to own you, but to grow beside you. The connection becomes an exchange of awareness, two beings walking their own paths, yet moving in harmony. There is freedom in this kind of love because it does not come from lack. There is respect in this kind of love because both people see each other as complete. It is not about completing each other's missing halves, it's about recognizing the fullness that already exists within both. Wholeness also changes how you handle disconnection. When something ends, you don't crumble into despair. You understand that endings are part of alignment. You no longer see rejection as proof of unworthiness. You see it as redirection. You stop clinging to what's leaving because you trust that what resonates with your new frequency will naturally find its way to you. The peace that comes with wholeness is unshakable because it's not built on circumstances. It's built on self-acceptance. The love that wholeness attracts is gentle, steady, and rooted in truth. It's a love that doesn't ask you to shrink, pretend, or perform. It's a love that mirrors your integrity, that honors your growth, that matches your depth. When you are whole, you stop asking for love to fill your emptiness and start sharing love from your completeness. You attract what you are. You attract who you've become. And the more fully you inhabit yourself, the more courageously you embrace both your light and your shadow, the more naturally you magnetize those who have learned to do the same